Well, welcome along. The engines are revving, and here we are once again for another edition of Under the Hood. And Gabe's back with us.
I am. And we somehow both decided to wear mustaches today.
Well, it is, of course, what month?
It's November currently that we're filming this, but if you're watching it, it may not be. But
Yeah.
I think it actually works quite well, the under the hood theme. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
under the nose.
under the nose, but also kind of like, how bikers are notorious for having, big handlebar mustaches. I think.
Unlike us.
Yeah,
We're
unlike
not quite
us.
there.
No.
As much as we can do. I'm sort of going for this thing called either a combination of a walrus or a barcode. I'm not quite sure which one.
This coffee types. I think you're more a latte. Shows more like a cappuccino.
Well, there you go. Enough about November. We're not here for that. We're here to have a look at what's under the hood for HubSpot. And we're going to be jumping in the second to last episode before the end of the year. So hopefully, where has the year gone? This is our 10th episode. So there we go. The big 1-0. So I hope you enjoyed us taking a little look of what's happening under the hood at HubSpot. So I'll start off as usual by just having a look at a couple of things that we can kind of set the scene for, if you like, in terms of obviously us first. As you know, Gabe and I, but also sometimes we have Michael Peach and Matthew Reed joining us from our offices in Perth, Western Australia. But today you just have the two of us.
Yeah, we let them sleep in.
I know it's 3-hour time difference for those poor people. So behavioural events is what is our topic today. So we're going to really have a look at a little bit of the touch of AI, which is always good, artificial intelligence. So being able to read minds and win hearts is one of the most important things that we need to do as marketers today. Every interaction that a visitor has across your website or indeed any of your marketing platforms is an important way of understanding their motivations, their needs, and their behaviors. And if we can target content and various offers and things like that that really match what their behavior is, obviously it's going to end up being a fantastic result at the end.
And really, the less you can assume, the better.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, I think we rely too much on gut feeling, isn't it? And we can push that to one side now and actually look at the data, which kind of helps us work that stuff out. This also helps building campaigns by using behavioral targeting that lets you stand out in a crowded market. So you can become just that little bit more proficient against your competitors by really understanding and pinpointing on the needs of your customers. So building campaigns with behavioral targeting, what does that actually mean? So some of the things that you can do is build active email lists that's based on contact behavior or interest to personalize the site content. And personalization, we've shared this a few times. You can look at the statistics about how important personalization is in marketing today. And this helps you do that. You can create these powerful automated marketing campaigns that's personalized at every interaction across the buyer journey. Secondly, you can lead your prospects through the buyer journey itself with the right touch point at the right time. As HubSpot's always said, delivering the right content to the right people at the right time when they need it the most. Well, this is kind of part and parcel of being able to do that. So you're really tailoring this by automatically sending things like follow-up emails after a visitor fills out a form, which keeps your brand top of mind because it's so relevant. Like if you fill something in and basically bang, something happens or triggers off, it's in the moment and it's going to have far more effect, if you like, than something that's delayed like 2 days later.
Like struck down hot, as they say, right?
Yeah.
It's even from a marketing perspective, and most people in sales would use that term, it's still relevant, right?
100%, it is. The third thing as well is HubSpot identifies high intent behaviors. So again, this is a way of kind of almost leading into things like lead scoring that HubSpot has as well, where you can actually indicate when a contact is actually ready to take the next step. So people being able to automate their way through a buyer journey is super critical to today's customer interaction, because people want to go at their own speed. They don't want to be pushed down. But if you can have the intel that says this person is ready just by certain data points or trigger points that they're ready to move to the next level, then it's obviously going to make that buyer journey a lot more smoother and get them through to the sales cycle a lot quicker. Mm-hmm. So one of the things obviously is to look at is designing that highly personalized buyer journey with active lists. And that's sort of something you can cover. As you can see, this example on the screen now is, for example, a webinar where a lead has not attended any of the webinars. So you can have this trigger point that as soon as the webinar is finished, you can find out that this person didn't attend the webinar and then send them off on a different, more targeted, personalized journey than those that did attend, because obviously the experience is going to be different. The communication that you have to someone that did attend the webinar or indeed watched this under the hood versus somebody that didn't watch it, or somebody that maybe watched it on demand, you can have different journeys, different content that's triggered off based on that activity.
Whereas you may be more like formal, pleasant with your email about people who did attend versus those who didn't. You can be a little.
Where were you?
Demanding, harsh.
What was more important than attending this webinar? So that brings us to the buyer journey. One of Gabe's most favorite topics, he'll talk to the cows come home, is about how important your buyer journey is. And this is one of our journeys for a client that we developed. As you can see, very interactive process that we run, where we get the client together, we look at what their current buyer journey is, and then we look at how can we optimize it? Where can we add trigger points? Where we can add a bit of AI or offers or things like that, just to help people flow through that journey.
Yeah, and that's really a good point, Anthony, about user flow. I mean, it is one of the things that is highly underrated in terms of the mapping process, that a lot of businesses we find haven't got any clue of how, you know, the whole journey means from the moment someone enters their CRM to the moment they become a customer. There's this real ambiguity in the whole process, not just in sales, but in marketing and service, the whole alignment. So this mapping process underpinned by HubSpot technology and tools. Coming back to, like, you know, obviously us talking about HubSpot is kind of imperative to not only figuring out how each touch point works and how you can personalize behaviors and all the other touch points of the buyer journey, but also how HubSpot, you can get the most out of your platform and really attribute every point underneath it. So it's kind of your foundation, if you will, that technology that underpins this whole buyer journey mapping.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you mentioned there as well is it's also bringing together the teams. I think one of the things we find when we work with organizations is that a lot of times the sales team and the marketing team and the service team all operate in silos, whereas this buyer journey exercise that we're showing you today brings the whole team together. You can get everybody in the room and say, like, collaboratively, you're all part of the buyer journey. So let's start with marketing. How do you bring people into the funnel? Then sales. Now you take over. What happens to that lead? Now it becomes a sales qualified lead. And then after something's been sold, now service, you tell us through what happens in the journey after that. So you end up with this collaborative journey.
It is a very collaborative journey. And I think a lot of people, avoid it because they feel like there's some sort of friction between different teams, and that they shouldn't step on people's toes in some way. And we try to, like, talk them through it and have them all in the room at the same time, to your point, to sort of like talk about when are the transition periods and what would be beneficial for sales from a marketing perspective in the hub, and then what would be beneficial for the service team, the customer service team, hub sales, and how can HubSpot then underpin that. So it's really bringing alignment in there, and it's not meant to cause friction, it's really to remove it.
Get everyone working together on one team we like to call the revenue team, because everybody's responsible for that end product. Rev those engines. So buyer journey mapping then leads into this kind of stuff, you know, where you've actually got, more of a, a blueprint, if you like, of how the touch points are going to happen, how you're going to actually bring people from one step to the next, how you're going to, systematically take them through the buyer journey from one place to another, automate the whole process and make it super easy for them. There's 3 types of customer behavioral events that can happen. There's the clicked element and a visited URL event, which is basically a custom event where a tracking code can automatically populate with data and trigger off something. And then there's obviously the manually tracked behavioral event, which are basically unique to your business and are not captured automatically by HubSpot, but you can actually build them yourself from a manual perspective. So a few different ways to look at it. And that's what we're going to cover off today. Behavioral triggers. How can we really start to align ourselves with our customer and what they're doing when they're on our website, and actually really start to hone in and give them the content that they want when they want it. And Gabe's going to take us under the hood on that subject.
So is the title of this series, I guess. Yes, we are going to do that. And to Tony's point, like, a lot of those behavioral signals and tools that HubSpot have are very advanced, like especially on the enterprise level. If you're going to invest in HubSpot and really want to get the most out of the tools, enterprise, definitely it is the top tier, definitely the most, that you would invest in the platform. But overall, you would get the most out of your platform if you did look at the enterprise tools. And people often start at starter, maybe the free version, and go up to pro, and eventually can grow as the business grows to enterprise. But some people can go straight into enterprise. That is not to say that we're going to look at all those aspects today, because in enterprise the tools for behavioral signals and personalization expands dramatically, and we couldn't cover it all in this one session. So, and what we've gotten feedback from in terms of demoing the tools in HubSpot is that, I'm just starting and I just want sort of like the initial sort of thoughts that you have, not the whole kit and caboodle as maybe Peach will dive into at an excruciating level. Not that that's bad, but we like to give a bit of balance here when we bring you under the hood, as it were.
It's like getting one of those. You buy something, a technology product, and the user manual's like this, and you're going to go, I just want page one. How do I turn this thing on and get using it? Which is really where we want to get you started.
Yeah. So to that point, as a good example, Tony, we're gonna bring you into sort of a more palatable version of what enterprise tools you could be utilizing from a behavioral signal point of view. So where I wanted to start is probably where most people find they want to really dive into in the HubSpot tools, which is the workflow, the automation-based tools, right? Whatever we can do to eliminate the time it takes to follow up a contact through marketing or sales or whatnot, automation is your key place to go. So I wanted to cover off in this little example I built in our own portal, which we do have enterprise level, of course, being an elite partner. We have the best of the best. But what I want to show you is just where you could start and really just play around and have a look for yourself. Really, when I started in HubSpot, it's been 6 or 7 years now, but when I first started, it was really the exploratory stage I found the most exciting, where I learned the most with actually going in and playing with the tools. One thing to note is that HubSpot has a sandbox available on enterprise level. So I think we talked about that in the previous episode.
We do.
And if you invested in enterprise, you could then have that and do that play around, even have your team play around and whatnot, and not cause a catastrophe with your current CRM, avoid all that. But looking at what we're looking at today, I just want to take it down a notch and really look at setting up a trigger based upon people's activity and behavior, right? And it's really as simple as you start from scratch a new workflow. Here I've developed that one, but I'll show you where I was just before. So I went into the automation tools, I went under workflows. You can see these are all of ours. We've got a bazillion, 232 to be exact. We go over here to start from scratch, and that's where I ended up before. It's starting off a workflow based upon the contact, the company, the deal, etc. But they keep it super simple. Let's look at the contact. So we're looking at behavioral signals for the individual, right? And if I go next and start a blank workflow, it'll take me to that one I was showing before, but I'll take you back to the one I was working on. So I want to start another one. And then you'll start off with a blank canvas, which is fun. It's great. I love this starting point because you can literally go, cool, well, let's have a look at all the options that I have. I'm super excited. Whoa, okay. There's a lot to pull in from that. Okay. So we're looking at behavioral signals and activity. Well, probably the best place to start off when we're talking about that kind of stuff is activity properties, right? Because activity properties then sort of dictates, well, it's based upon people's in the CRM that you have, right? Your contacts and all of the things they might be doing, opening up emails, going to web pages, downloading PDFs, whatever it might be, right? A lot of that activity is covered under just this one aspect of the trigger criteria placed within workflows. And one of my favorite ones to go to, if you have a look down here, is activity type under engagement. So you go to activity type. This is one of the cool places you can start to just build out some of your even the most beginning basic kind of workflows. If activity is any of, and you can choose from what already HubSpot gives you as a pre-selection tool. So you could be like, oh, a LinkedIn message. That's interesting. Like if there's a LinkedIn message that's sent through, and you're able to track that through HubSpot, then you can have a workflow based on that. So let's select that as an option. Select that, apply that filter, and then you're good to go. LinkedIn message trigger criteria point is added. Save that. Always hit save. Always hit the orange button. That's the #1 key thing with workflows and any tools you use in HubSpot. Always look for the orange button before you go ahead. And then from there, you can just choose a multitude of things that would occur. Probably one of the most common things you would do is say like delay for a certain amount of time. So you could say, I want to delay for an hour because I don't want to seem creepy and immediately get a LinkedIn message and then immediately respond saying, hey, here's an ebook.
Which often happens to anybody on LinkedIn. You find it and it doesn't work. It's too jolting, isn't it? It's kind of, it's automated.
Yeah, it's very abrasive, right? And
yeah.
It's like,
salesy.
Yeah, exactly. So wait an hour as an example, could be longer, however you want to do it. And then decide from there what you want to do. Like maybe I want to send this person, and you've got all these external communications, nice and neat. packed in right there. You could send an email, enroll them in another sequence, like a sales sequence as an example, where it comes directly from you, or it could be a marketing email sequence, so it comes from the company, info@company name, right? And you can have that there, pop it in, and it's one of the most key things people do is a follow-up to any kind of initial trigger criteria, send an email or a text message, however you have your tools integrated into HubSpot. But then you can go here and choose a multitude, like, oh, look, we've got under the hood kickback email. We could do that and save that. And we could have literally that send out after that criteria, and then you're good to go, like review and launch and publish. Test in here, the settings, see if you want to put it under a campaign. Look at our campaigns episode if you want to know more about campaigns. That's a callback, Tony.
It is. I like that. Very good.
You could look at setting goals as well. So goals in a sense, like if someone does something and like you have a long workflow of automations and something happens where then you want to immediately pull them out. Setting a goal is where you could do that. So for example, like the contact property equals lifecycle stage, eventually of, opportunity, then it's like, oh, okay, we don't want to be sending them any more of these workflow automations emails. So apply that filter. So if they do ever hit that goal criteria, they're immediately removed from that workflow. Super cool. And then literally just go review and see like, existing contacts. That HubSpot lets you know this. It's like, you could either enroll everybody who meets the criteria previous to the workflow being created or after. In most cases, I'd probably recommend after, but there is some cases where it makes sense to enroll all in previous history as well. So there's no hard and fast rule to that, but just be careful when applying because you can enroll people that you might not want to enroll. I'm not going to wait for that to load, but you get the idea. I would select yes or no, and then I just turn on the workflow, which I'm not going to do because that would do something I don't want it to do. What I'm going to show you now is just a very simple example of nurture that we built out for a client, and it will show you kind of the whole schematics, the whole build, if you would. I'll call it a 0, that mean that criteria. So if I turn it on, it would be an issue. But I'm going to show you an example here of a client we have called Play. We developed out this lovely MQL nurture sequence. So an MQL, as many of you probably know from HubSpot definition, means a marketing qualified lead. They've met the criteria within the lifecycle stage of being a marketable contact. And the purpose of this workflow is that they download a lead asset. In this case, it's a white paper on navigating innovation because these guys work on innovation in the FMCG industry. Someone downloads that. They immediately are classified as an MQL. They enter it in the member list of customer nurtures equals MQLs. And we just make sure that they haven't already received previous nurtures from us from this MQL nurture. That's probably a big plus, huge tip. Make sure like if you're going to enroll people in nurtures, you set some criteria that says if they've already been enrolled, don't enroll them again because they'll be receiving the same nurtures. And that's probably one of the worst frictions you can have. So top tip there. As you can see there, cool, we have a delay. Oh, look, 2 people already enrolled in that contact. We can actually see if we ever wanted to come and dive in and see, oh, cool, Grace and this person, can't pronounce their name, is in this workflow, this nurture. Cool. In a day's time, they're going to receive email number 1. And the goal criteria you can see is met there. It's actually then the goal criteria if they go from MQL to SQL, which is the next stage. And then from there is a workflow set up, but moving too far ahead there. If they, throughout this workflow criteria, don't meet the goal, after 4 days, so these 3 people enrolled, we'd have a double check, just check, are they still MQL? Yes, cool, all right, send them MQL email number 2 in the nurture. Within these emails as well, we have a quick look at that. You can see that email number 2 has got the criteria of, hey there, personalization. That hey there would change to hey first name, whatever your name is, Mike, for example. In an ideal world, blah, 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 blah. This is all like very low, like touch kind of stuff. You don't want to be salesy. You just want to educate. You want to give them something of value, right? Within a nurture. So this is how we've approached this one. Set them a bit of a video to watch and have a look at that, educate themselves further. But the ultimate goal is that we want them to download something at an MQL level to make them an SQL. That's the trigger criteria here. If they went and read this case study, downloaded it, that would automatically update in the SQL. As we saw before, the goal criteria would move them out of this nurture. And then what would happen is this lovely little workflow that said, hey, there's a new SQL to review now. And it's a manual step that this team particularly like to do because they like to qualify all the SQLs that come in. But that's a great big step away from them having previously having to qualify every single lead that comes in through any form through the website. So this is a huge plus for them. So although the volume is lower, the quality is a lot higher because they've gone through the nurture. So the SQL qualified lead is part of the trigger criteria. There are list membership is of SQLs, and also they are in this list membership here or previously SQL who has submitted an MQL to SQL form. This gets sent to the contact owner, being Chris, and he created this lovely little task that's set in HubSpot saying, hey, Chris, and he gets this an email and through his HubSpot app saying this new contact just come through as an SQL. Also, you might want to go in there and follow the steps as we've covered in our process that we built out for you to qualify this person. Here's all the criteria you should be matching. Are they the right size, the right industry, etc. And then also we've got the lead details actually set in there so that you can actually click in the email directly to that person, single customer view, and look in there and look at that historical record. So that was a lot to take in, but I think that covers.
You take a big breath.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I've been under the hood for too long. I go above the hood to take a breath. But look, I think in terms of nurtures, in terms of all of that, like that is really where you if we're looking at a basic starting point, can start quite easily and already have like a huge impactful, high quality set of nurturing that happens with those behavioral activities in lives that we just looked at as an example.
And I can see what you've just gone through there. There's like a lot of work to set it up, right? You've got to really think through the whole process. But once it's set up, it's set and forget, right? Exactly. It just you're just constantly building upon this each time. So it sounds like it's a good thing for the future.
And it's built for growth there too, because like you said, it's not fixed in stone, right? Like salted stone.
Another plug.
Another plug. With the merch. So it's not set in stone. Like as you saw Chris there as the receiver of all the SQL notifications, but as his sales team grows, he'll probably pass that on to say, hey, can you include this person in there as well, and this other salesperson, so that they can help with that qualification process. And as easy as just going add in an additional person and then have a little stopgap that says who's going to take this, and then you tick the box, say I will, and they go ahead.
And you carry on. That's really cool. Thanks for taking us through under the hood with that one. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff to get started on. You can start with something simple, just a simple workflow that Gabe was showing you at the very beginning, and then just keep building and building. It's almost like a labyrinth. You just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But the good thing is, like, you're building something for the future. All this great AI and automation based on behavioral triggers.
100%.
Well, there we go. So that was the subject, behavioral triggers, which is our second to last for this year. So make sure you join us next week, because next week we're going to be talking about custom dashboards. So this is where it all comes together, right? One of our favorite things. So we're probably going to call in one of our solutions team, Peachy or Maddie, to join us for next week. But we're actually going to dive into dashboards, because all of the stuff we've been covering in the first 10 episodes of Under the Hood is all great data sources, and they all have to come together in some nice little dashboard that you can actually see to make it all worthwhile. So tune in next week and we'll cover off custom dashboards.
I can't wait, Tony. It's like one of the most exciting things to do, because it really proves all the efforts put together into one singular view, right? And you can have those custom dashboards per team as well. So like you have one for the marketing team, sales team, or an overall one. Hopefully execs who just want to know what the ROI is, that kind of stuff. I'm excited to look at that, and I'm glad it's going to be our last one for the year, which it's a bit sad. We'll be back. We'll be back in the new year, and it's your last chance. I was going to say your last chance to see the moustache next time as well before it goes. It will be the last day of November, so donate if you can, obviously. But thanks everyone for tuning in. We look forward to sharing our last session with you next week.
Thanks for being part of Under the Hood.
Yes, take it easy.